She hadn't spoken a single word since birth. A millionaire father did everything money could buy. Specialists, therapies, endless treatments, but nothing worked. Then, one quiet afternoon in the park, a stranger walked by. A man society often overlooks, a man judged by the color of his skin. And in that moment, something happened that defied logic, silenced the father, and revealed more than just a miracle. Because what unfolded wasn't only about a little girl finding her voice. It was about the voice of justice itself. The question is, why did it take him to unlock what others could not? It was supposed to be just another Saturday morning. The sun filtered through tall oaks as children's laughter filled the park. For Daniel, a wealthy businessman who had built his fortune from the ground up, this was his escape from boardrooms and pressure. The one place he could simply be a father. Beside him sat his little girl, Emma. Bright eyes, soft curls, and a silence that had defined her entire life. Doctors said she might never speak. Therapists gave him percentages, not hope. Daniel had accepted the quiet, though it broke him more each day. He came to the park to give Emma normal moments, even if words never came. But on this day, hidden in the ordinary, something extraordinary was waiting. A single encounter that would shatter his understanding of silence, privilege, and the world around him. Daniel guided Emma toward the swings, her small hand wrapped in his. To anyone else, it was a picture of peace, an elegant man in an expensive coat walking with his daughter through the park. But behind the calm, Daniel carried a heaviness no money could erase. He had tried everything to give Emma a voice. Specialists in Europe, clinics across America, endless therapy sessions, and yet silence. As he lifted her onto the swing, Daniel noticed people watching. Parents glanced at him with polite curiosity. Some whispered. They knew him, the millionaire with a mute daughter. To them, he was tragic but untouchable, pity wrapped in privilege. And then, in the middle of this quiet routine, a figure entered the park. A tall black man, wearing simple clothes, carrying no more than a worn notebook under his arm. He walked with calm confidence, but Daniel saw the shift immediately. Parents stiffened. A mother pulled her child closer. A father's eyes narrowed, his grip tightening around his stroller handle. No words were spoken, but the silence carried judgment. Daniel felt it too, that subtle tightening in the air. Not fear of danger, but fear of perception. The man hadn't done anything. He hadn't even looked their way. But the weight of history hung over him like an invisible accusation. And Emma was watching. She leaned forward on the swing, eyes wide, fixated on the stranger. Daniel followed her gaze, confused. She had never shown interest in anyone before, never reached out, never reacted with such intensity. Her lips parted slightly, almost as if forming a sound. The man noticed. He offered a small, gentle nod to the girl. Nothing more. Yet the reaction was immediate. Daniel heard a murmur behind him. Someone muttered about keeping an eye out. Another voice whispered, "What's he doing here?" The words dripped with suspicion, with the kind of prejudice too many pretend doesn't exist. The man moved closer to the bench, not threatening, not imposing, just present. And that was enough to spark unease. Daniel felt the tension rising, torn between shielding his daughter and acknowledging what he knew deep down. The unease wasn't about safety. It was about race. Emma's tiny hand lifted, reaching toward the man. Daniel froze. She had never done that before. Never extended herself toward a stranger. Never broken the bubble of silence she lived in. The man crouched slightly, giving her space, respecting the invisible boundary every parent holds sacred. And then, Emma's lips trembled. A faint sound, broken but real. Daniel's heart stopped. His daughter was trying to speak. In that fragile, miraculous moment, the park became divided. Some stared in awe, unable to believe what they were seeing. Others shifted uncomfortably, muttering louder now. Not about the miracle, but about the man who had been part of it. And as Daniel tried to process what was happening, one question thundered in his chest. Why was everyone so quick to question the man, instead of celebrating his daughter's first words? Emma's voice cracked the silence of the park. A fragile, stammered sound, but a voice nonetheless. Daniel's heart surged with a joy he had never known. yet was instantly drowned by the ripple of unrest around them. Instead of wonder, suspicion filled the air. Parents whispered louder now. One man stepped forward, his voice sharp, accusing the stranger of doing something to the girl. The black man froze, hands visible, calm but cautious. He had seen this before, how quickly admiration could turn into accusation, how a miracle could be twisted into a threat. Daniel watched in disbelief as the crowd closed in. Not on him, not on Emma, but on the man who had been nothing but gentle. Someone pulled out a phone, already recording. Another muttered about calling security. The miracle of Emma's first words was being overshadowed by the color of the man's skin. And Daniel, for all his wealth and influence, felt powerless. His daughter had just broken through years of silence, yet the moment was being stolen, hijacked by prejudice, by fear disguised as concern. Emma reached again, her tiny voice clearer this time, calling out, not for her father, but for the man they were treating like a criminal. And in that instant, Daniel saw it with brutal clarity. The world would rather doubt a miracle than trust a black man. The crowd pressed tighter. The man stood firm, dignity in his posture, pain in his eyes. Daniel's chest burned with rage and shame. Rage at the injustice unfolding before him. Shame for every second he hesitated to speak. And then came the breaking point. A park officer arrived, his hand resting on his belt, gaze locked on the stranger. The murmurs grew into shouts. Daniel realized the next few seconds could decide not just the stranger's fate, but the meaning of his daughter's first words. Would this moment be remembered as her miracle, or as another tragedy born of prejudice? The park officer paused, eyes shifting between the stranger, the restless crowd, and the little girl whose fragile voice had just broken through silence. For a moment, the world seemed frozen, every breath, every judgment hanging in the air. Then Daniel stepped forward. With a voice that trembled but grew stronger, he declared what the crowd refused to see. This man had done nothing wrong. He hadn't harmed Emma. He had been the very reason she spoke at all. The murmurs faltered. The tension broke, though not without scars. The stranger quietly nodded, choosing dignity over argument, before walking away into the distance. Emma's tiny voice echoed after him, calling the name she had somehow known to form. And just like that, he was gone, leaving behind not just a miracle, but a mirror held up to the world. For Daniel, the moment burned deep into his soul. He had spent years chasing cures, therapies, treatments that money could buy. But it wasn't wealth that freed his daughter's voice, it was connection. And yet, the world tried to bury that miracle beneath suspicion because of the man's skin. This story isn't just about one girl speaking for the first time. It's about how quickly prejudice can choke the beauty of a moment, how society is trained to fear instead of to trust, how many more miracles are silenced because judgment comes first. Emma's voice was a beginning, but the real question is, will we listen? Or will we keep letting fear and racism drown out the voices that were meant to change us? Because sometimes the most powerful words don't come from the mouths of the wealthy or the privileged. They come from those the world refuses to hear.